Last year saw the biggest annual spike in refugees recorded by the UN Refugee Agency, with 2.9 million more people fleeing conflict and persecution than in the prior year. That's a total of 25.4 million registered refugees. More than half of them were children, according to the agency's latest report.
This is because of protracted conflicts, lack of solutions for those conflicts that continue, continuous pressure on civilians in countries of conflict that push them to leave their homes, and new or aggravating crises as well, like the Rohingya crisis. That, of course, accounts for quite a big increase in the number of refugees.
By the end of 2017, the number of Rohingya refugees fleeing violence in Myanmar's Rakhine state had more than doubled from 500,000 at the start of the year to 1.2 million. In South Sudan, it was civil war in the world's youngest nation that drove the largest annual increase in refugees, up by 1 million. In the Middle East, the Syrian refugee population grew 14% to 6.3 million.
Also of growing concern are hotspots, including in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Central African Republic, in Yemen and Venezuela. All these situations have raised the need for more burden sharing among the international community, but also fueled growing demand to assist countries that host refugees. But the UN Refugee Agency says support has been mixed, and its funding appeal of $8 billion for this year is only 14% met.
Efforts to accept and resettle refugees have also been complicated by the perception of an outsized influx of refugees into Western states.
In 2015, the world refugee situation became on the front pages of newspapers around the world. Why is that? It's because there were refugees that were arriving in Europe in greater numbers than there had been before. But even on an objective count, that number was far outstripped by the number of refugees in the developing world, which house 85% of all refugees. So there is a lack of perspective when it comes to the Western world and the refugee problem, when really the weight that's being carried is not by the West, but it is by low and middle income countries.
The refugee situation, however, is only a fraction of the total number of people displaced by conflict and persecution last year. If we include people who fled their homes but remained within their countries, then we're now looking at 68.5 million people uprooted by fear and violence. Li Ling Tan, CGTN, New York.